Thank you, SC Delegate and former Secretary General Finn Kraft, for the music. Would the House please come to order? Honorable Secretary General, Deputy Secretary Generals, student officers, delegates, directors, admins, press, and distinguished guests. Welcome to the closing ceremony of the 17th Annual BERMUN2 Conference. Even though we had hoped to make the 17th BERMUN2 hybrid with the Berlin schools on campus, COVID necessitated that only JFKS students were allowed on campus. Nonetheless, students throughout the entire BERMUN2 community gathered together to watch the opening ceremony and participate in committee sessions.
For the past 3 days, we have been debating the various aspects of effective education for equity and excellence. Therefore, we would like to invite Nicolas Heibrink, one of this year's Deputy Secretary Generals, to take the floor and elaborate on the proceedings of the past few days. From making sure we're able to have resolutions in our weekly debate to his passionate announcements in our staff meetings, we are extremely grateful for his hard work. Mr. Deputy Secretary General, you now have the floor.
What is equity? The World Health Organization defines it as the absence of unfair, avoidable, or remediable differences among groups of people. Equity implies fairness. A common understanding of the term equality is that everyone receives the same resources. But in equity, those less fortunate in their socioeconomic status are compensated with additional resources that anyone who doesn't need doesn't get. In theory, this gives everyone equal footing for their futures. However, this definition implies that not all differences can be avoided, and in my opinion, not all differences should be avoided. Some private schools and universities charge tens of thousands of dollars for tuition every year, far more than what can be spent by the government on every single student. However, there is no true equity if some have access to this elusive education while others don't. Does this mean we should entirely ban non-public educations? This would get rid of unfair competition that many students of underfunded schools have to face when moving into the job market or higher educational facilities like universities that determine which applicants to accept based on previous academic performance. The only remaining major factors influencing grades and thereby futures would be hard work and talent, or lack thereof. But I think this would be the wrong approach. Banning expensive educations is not beneficial and would lower the standards of overall education. Private schools are proven to perform better in exams, probably partially because they, on average, have better access to technology and fewer students per teacher. In the USA, the student-to-teacher ratio is around 12 to 1 in private schools, but over 16 to 1 in public schools. It may be equitable to implement legislation to make this uniform, but I don't believe that this is fair to private students. Should not everyone receive the best education possible? The idea of bringing everyone to the same level doesn't help anyone in and of itself. Defining where the level should be and working towards it is what is actually relevant to the socioeconomically disadvantaged. And what actual reasons are there for uniform expectations across all income brackets? Equity, when not taken with caution, is idealism with limited usefulness. We should be working constructively to better the situation for all in the name of progress, instead of getting rid of the virtue of excellence, which is so important to the advancement of societies. Imagine this situation. You have the funds to either hire a bus driver for one rural student, so this one person doesn't have to be homeschooled, or to hire a computer science teacher at a school that doesn't yet have one. Someone who only focuses on equity would hire the bus driver because the rural student needs to be taught more urgently than the others in the name of equity. But a utilitarian would hire the informatics teacher because this would simply benefit more people. In my opinion, we don't have room for only ethically advantageous morals in education. While everyone does need a fair chance to succeed, it can't be at the cost of 100 others. Nevertheless, everyone does need a fair chance to succeed. This is where the benefits of maintaining the goal of equity come in, and why it was a part of the conference theme. The situation of the fortunate is a good model to try and emulate for everyone, as long as we don't cheat by sabotaging these standards. This conference, the ECOSOC debated ways to close national achievement gaps and was productive in finding measures that benefit everyone. These measures benefited everyone and harmed no one. Ideas they passed in their resolutions included improved rural public transportation, so the bus driver dilemma does not even occur in the first place, or increasing funding for technology at schools, so all schools have the possibility of teaching computer science. While this may not be the most direct way to avoid achievement gaps, the delegates showed good understanding of the nuance of the topic by implementing constructive policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas, for your insightful and nuanced conclusionary remarks on the possible negatives of an idealistic perception of equity.
Next, to relate your varied approaches to this year's conference, we will entertain a short video from the student officers of all BERMUN2 committees and forums, discussing their deliberations over the course of the last 3 days and recounting their favorite experiences from their committees.
This time of crisis, we're brutally reminded of the importance of education. Lack of knowledge, and especially misinformation, can lead to situations which leave humanity speechless. This is why this year's conference topic is so vital.
Regardless of some technical issues, Finn being late or not showing up at all, we managed to have an enjoyable conference and establish a suitable resolution to ensure the establishment of effective education in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
We want to thank our admins, delegates, the Secretariat and directors, which made it possible for us to attend this year's BERMUN2 and to listen to debates discussing crucial issues regarding establishing education.
We would also like to remind everyone that the SC is the only committee which can actually create binding resolutions.
And with that, by default, the greatest committee of all.
This year in the ECOSOC, we debated the topic of closing national achievement gaps in education. Delegates worked diligently to achieve this goal and worked together in the lobbying groups to create resolutions.
Our solutions were many-leveled and varied. The delegates worked tirelessly both in lobbying and debate to create the best solutions possible. From international conferences to new committees, our delegates made sure that in all nations, the achievement gaps would be closed.
From the lovely puns to our hilarious committee observations to passing 2 resolutions and 1 day, our committee has been a blast. Thank you for the memories.
Our delegates discussed the issue of curriculum and instruction in the 21st century, and we would like to thank them for their extremely hard work and their patience whilst we dealt with any technical difficulties.
The UNESCO committee crafted 3 great and unique resolutions that encompass creative ways to develop curricula for the 21st century.
This year, in UNESCO's mock debate, our delegates debunked the conspiracy theory that the Earth is round and established that the Earth is, in fact, flat.
This year's topic in the special conference was to reduce anxiety among students in schools. Therefore, as we all are students ourselves, we all could extremely well consider it with this topic. Therefore, we all had a fun and great time discussing this topic.
In our committee, we had a lot of fun talking about our resolutions. We even discussed Clause 7, Subclause C of our first resolution multiple times, as delegates were never truly satisfied with it. And we truly, at the end, got everything. In our committee, we discussed how we're much better than Tinder at connecting couples, how we had a secret poet who's planning to write 43 poems for our entire committee, and how our internet was always an issue.
This BERMUN2 in the Junior MUN, we were discussing the pressing issue of integrating migrants into the education system. There are many economic and social challenges a migrant may experience in education, and their academic struggles are often rooted in cultural differences. This theme is important all over the world, and our delegates did an impeccable job of creating clauses to capture this.
Delegates of the Junior MUN debated many solutions to accommodate the unique needs of migrant students. From specialized language classes to providing mental health assistance to migrants, our delegates discussed a wide range of ways to integrate migrants into the education system. Our delegates proved to be very motivated and enthusiastic during debate and ended up passing our resolution.
In the Junior MUN, we had many funny, unforgettable moments, such as the Russian Federation being asked an excessive amount of points of information, which led to a quarter hour of answering questions until the chair stopped due to the time. Also, our delegates love to make very stupid jokes of the day, such as singing in the shower is fun until you get soap in your mouth, then it's a soap opera.
This year in the ICJ, we are debating an extremely relevant topic, Ukraine and Russia. In 2017, Ukraine applied for our current case that we are discussing, application of the ICSFT, and served. Ukraine seeks to prove that Russia has violated these conventions, whereas Russia hopes to justify its actions.
ICJ, after much deliberation, the judges decided to vote in favor of Ukraine due to the overwhelming evidence presented by the Ukrainian advocates.
The ICJ is the best committee.
What's your favorite committee?
ICJ. ICJ is my favorite committee.
What is your favorite committee?
The ICJ.
I love the ICJ. I love it. I have to say it's a really great committee. I think you're doing a great job in it.
ICJ's best committee.
Of course, the ICJ is the favorite committee of all.
Is the ICJ your favorite committee?
It is now.
Two, one.
Dear admins, delegates, student officers, directors, press team, and tech and student guests, we would like to express our appreciation for our hardworking admins that have dedicated a lot of time and effort to ensure a successful conference. Their willingness and ability to adapt to their responsibilities have impressed us immensely.
Despite COVID, our team worked remarkably well together. While this conference was difficult due to the hybrid situation, it was as rewarding as ever, and we are very grateful to have been a part of it. The eagerness of all participants is inspiring, and the rigor of the student officers and the Secretariat is incredible.
We want to give a special thank you to our Administrative Director, Mrs. Robertson, for her tireless effort and sleepless nights. We are extremely grateful and lucky to be able to work with such a kind and dedicated director.
Good.
I had the privilege of serving as the editor-in-chief for the BERMUN press team for the second time. The press team consists of many talented reporters, text editors, a photographer, and a video team who have been working very hard to provide information about the conference itself, but especially about the conference theme of effective education for equity and excellence. As students, the members of the press team can especially relate to many of the topics, which cover academic anxiety, different education systems worldwide, and many other topics. Although the John F. Kennedy School was unable to invite outside schools on campus, this precaution relates to similar problems that the education system has faced in the past few years. Education was forced online and has since then evolved to being oftentimes digital, with new methods regularly being created. As students, we have learned to adapt quickly while still aiming to create a future by striving to do our best in all that we do. The press team is grateful for the MUN platform, which allows us to write articles despite being unable to create a newspaper, as in previous years. I hope that you have enjoyed the press page.
Now, I would like to introduce Noah Delfs, our President of the General Assembly, with whom we, the Secretariat, have had the pleasure of working with since December to create this year's BERMUN2 Conference. Noah has been instrumental in leading our student officer team. From his extremely funny joke of the days to never heard before quotes from Nelson Mandela, Noah always manages to motivate us all. Mr. President of the General Assembly, you now have the floor.
Consider the following 3 scenarios. A high-achieving student who is constantly dealing with severe school-related anxiety. An emotionally happy student who has been forced to repeat multiple years due to their inadequate grades. A student whose social emotional well-being is satisfactory and who earns adequate grades. Are all of these examples of success? I believe that there is no singular, comprehensive definition of success. In spite of this, I agree the most with the idea that success can be achieved when you try your best in all aspects of everything you do, even if that does not lead to the big results. If you've done your best, you should feel proud of your efforts. That having been said, we must consider if we are able to say whether or not someone else is successful. The aforementioned definition of success implies that success is an internally driven concept that allows you to set your own goals, which, upon completion, indicate fulfillment and/or success. In reality, this is not always the case. Sometimes we work hard on something simply to be told that the product of our efforts is not up to someone else's standards. Due to the complexity of individual success as an aim, we must divide it up into different categories. When used conversationally, success is often used as a tool for financial judgment. Such evaluation should be based on economic growth rather than generational wealth. Physical well-being is another facet of success. This contains your health and fitness, which are 2 commonly disregarded aspects of general success. Academic success can be defined as the extent to which a person has attained their short or long-term educational goals. A lot of the time, such educational goals are shaped by their surroundings. Social, emotional success encapsulates the skills of self-awareness and various interpersonal skills that are imperative to the development of a person and their ability to form and sustain relationships. Each of these aspects of success are important in their own right, but some of them are more relevant to education. I would like to examine the concepts of social, emotional, as well as academic success more closely because of their immediate connection to institutional education. We have determined that success can be self-imposed, but if we are to evaluate other people's success, we must establish clear parameters. In a May 2013 news release, the Michigan Great Start Systems team stated that 9 to 14% of all young children experience social and emotional problems that negatively affect their functioning and development. Social and emotional health is someone's ability to seek out and form healthy and strong relationships with others. It also encompasses the ability to feel secure in exploring environments, solving problems that arise in daily activities, and managing one's emotions. Our social emotional success is affirmed or challenged by our understanding of social politics and our emotional happiness. Another critical aspect of social emotional success is school-related anxiety, or lack thereof. Because of increasingly competitive learning environments, it is progressively getting more difficult to manage one's mental health. So we must ask ourselves, does school facilitate our social emotional success? If not, what must be changed about these institutions so that they acknowledge the extreme importance of the aforementioned qualities? When we speak of success in the context of education, we usually think solely of academic accomplishment. Since students' grades are usually the main criteria for admissions to universities and other academic institutions, we refer to grades as measurements of success. This method of academic evaluation is flawed, mainly because of its inability to consider students' personal perspectives regarding their own achievements. Each learner defines their aspirations and goals differently, while grades are usually measured on a standard scale. From an individual's perspective, with the backdrop of education, we must consider that success can be presented in many different forms. Having talked about success as a multifaceted idea, I would like to return to our 3 examples from earlier. These examples represent only 3 of the many different scenarios students can find themselves in. Although one can argue either for or against the fact that all 3 examples are successful, I would argue that we do not have enough information to reach a definitive answer. Conversations and discussions about the indicators of success can help us frame our goals and criteria for measuring success. But we need to remember that while other people may evaluate us based on their expectations of success, the choice of which form of success you would like to pursue and to what extent is yours, and yours alone. Only then, when success is defined by ourselves, we can be truly successful in the way that it matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah, for your insightful speech on the facets of success and the need as individuals to define our own success.
At this time, we would like to extend our gratitude to all journalists, editors, and photographers of the BERMUN2 press team, under the guidance of our press directors, Mr. Robertson and Ms. Cupp. Your contribution to BERMUN2 is greatly appreciated. If you would like to read their informative and humorous articles, navigate to the News tab on the BERMUN2 platform, or visit the press page on the BERMUN website.
We would like to take this time to extend our gratitude to everyone involved in executing this year's BERMUN2. First and foremost, we would like to thank all of you. As delegates, your preparation, professionalism, and enthusiasm have allowed this year's conference to be a success in all forms. Of course, none of us would be here if it weren't for all of our directors. We thank you for your commitment and all the time you have spent to provide this opportunity to your delegates. From registration to preparing your delegates' research and to preparing your delegates for research and writing resolutions, we owe your success in large part to your guidance. Please take the time to reach out to your director and thank them.
We would particularly like to thank our BERMUN2 directors for their work ethic and the extra hours they have spent with us and for us in shaping BERMUN2 2022. Their hard work has truly paid off, and we could not be more thankful to you. We would especially like to emphasize the contribution of Mrs. Robertson, our conference manager. From sending out many more emails than anyone can count to ensuring that the platform functions properly and keeping us on task, Mrs. Robertson has been an essential part of our team. Thank you for your unlimited commitment to the conference and us. Ms. Robertson?
Another integral part of BERMUN2 is, of course, the student officer team. Finally, you have watched all of your preparations come to life. As abstract as they may have been this year, we've enjoyed the process of working with you and will never forget our long video calls and feeling of closeness despite the physical distance. A big thanks to your commitment and professionality, although you could sadly not come to Berlin.
The admin team and approval panel took care of so much that it is hard to name it all. Without them, the conference would not work. With every challenge we face, these committed individuals take on the front line, multi-managing everything from our resolutions grammar and spelling errors to Zoom calls. For their relentless efforts, despite the challenges of online, they deserve the thanks of everyone who took part or watched BERMUN2. We thank the heads of admin, Marla, Cade, and Stella, and their entire team, and Ray Tober, who has worked tirelessly on the approval panel.
Another vital, yet below the radar organ is the BERMUN2 tech team, of course. Now, more than ever, their efforts are invaluable. Their tireless aid in developing and implementing a hybrid conference plan, developed to accommodate our conference at times questionably existent Wi-Fi, running our closing ceremony, and putting up with our general technical ineptitude is greatly appreciated. We extend our thanks to the entire tech team.
We would also like to thank Alexander Gintar and the entire team from MUN World for the conference platform we have all used. Our conference could not have been the same without it.
Among these many thank yous, we need to finish with two special people. Firstly, our longtime JFKS teacher, administrator, and German principal, Herr Steffen Schulz, will retire at the end of this school year. In his career at JFKS, he has been a strong supporter of our program. We are particularly appreciative for making sure that BERMUN has continued throughout the past years of the pandemic. Herr Schulz, thank you sincerely, and we wish you all the best as you take this next step in your life. Secondly, we need to give a special thank you to Buck Chisholm. Buck was a longtime JFKS parent, the head of the Parentverein, who suddenly passed away in the past year. As the parent of the JFKS Verein over the past years, he was a long supporter of the program. he encouraged the JFKS BERMUN directors to invest in the critical technology that made digital conference like this possible. He was an example of the essential importance of civic engagement and participation as he volunteered his time and energy. Mr. Chisholm, thank you again for your support and kindness. It is not forgotten.
Over the past few days, the International Court of Justice debated the application of the International Convention for the Suppression of the Financing of Terrorism and of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. I will now read the prayer to the court. The ICJ requests the following consequences and compensations. 1. The recognition of Russia funding of separatist organization as a violation of the ISFT. 2. Recognition of acts of discrimination carried by the Russian Federation in violation of the CERD. 3. Immediate cessation of and money reparations evaluated and distributed by the OCHA for any and all violations of the CERD and the ISCFT. A. To Ukrainian minority groups currently residing in Russian-controlled Crimean territories, as well as B. Separatist regions in Luhansk and Donetsk, in order to compensate for the high degree of discrimination. 4. The release of annual reports in coordination with the Transparency International concerning the obligations of Russian financial institutions to Terrorism Financing Convention. Today, the ICJ has attempted to right a wrong of the past. Our conference theme this year centers around education. We are thinking about how we can use education to shape the future. And now it is up to us to determine what kind of future we want to create.
At our last BERMUN conference in November 2021, we discussed the theme of pursuing peace in a world of war and conflict. We discussed how the UN was founded with the aim of maintaining peace to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. We invited the Ukrainian Deputy Ambassador to Germany, Maxim Yemelyanov, to speak.
Is what happened in 1914 when the so-called Budapest Memorandum was signed by the US, UK, and Russia and Ukraine. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, Ukraine inherited the third largest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the world, more than other countries except Russia and the United States at that time combined. And under pressure, in 1994, we gave up this nuclear arsenal in exchange for security and economic assurances by Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom. And after 20 years, Russia simply disregarded these assurances by annexing our territory. And why I'm stressing Budapest Memorandum? Because I think that this is a very dangerous precedent that opened actually the Pandora box. Because ask yourself a question, how can you persuade right now Iran, North Korea, or any other country in the world who would like to possess nuclear weapon or nuclear capabilities to give up it in return for vague guarantees? This was a clear breach of non-proliferation policy, and it was a very dangerous precedent. There have been many experts at that time when we were contemplating whether we should do it or not to give up on our nuclear weapons. And many people argued, rightly, that if Ukraine gave up would give up its nuclear weapon, then the Russian aggression will be inevitable.
The invasion of Ukraine is the largest since 1941, when Nazi soldiers attacked the country. There have been hundreds of deaths and thousands of wounded. The protection of civilians must be priority number one. International humanitarian and human rights laws must be upheld. The decisions of the coming days will shape our world and directly affect the lives of millions of people. In the name of humanity, it's not too late to save this generation from the scourge of war. We need peace now. We encourage everyone to join us on Sunday at the Brandenburger Tor to stand up for peace.
We have now reached the end of our conference. Thank you for all of your work, and we hope to see some of you back next year in person. It is now my distinct honor to declare the 17th Annual BERMUN2 Conference as officially closed. As you leave, we hope that you will enjoy a bit of music from SC Delegate and our former BERMUN Secretary General, Finn Kraft.
Thank you.